Hello and welcome back to the Frugal Granny channel. It's Thursday and it's time for coffee and catch up, and this week it's episode 20, which means I've been doing these coffee and catch ups now for about 5 months, which really is quite an incredible thought. If you're new here, then you're very welcome. And guys, I just need to explain that I have 2 black pugs, so if you hear any snoring in the background or the occasional bark, that's where it's coming from. If you're a returning viewer, it's really lovely to see you, and thank you again for all your lovely comments over the last week. I'm sorry I've not been able to get back to some of the comments on the Monday video, but as you know, I've been working extra shifts this week. I'm really beginning to get quite tired. But anyway, that aside, Thursdays is usually a roundup of my week, especially the financial aspects. And one thing I wanted to touch on quickly, first of all, is my annuities. I think there have been quite a lot of new viewers over the last week or so, particularly because my lovely current viewers have been hyping my videos. And last week's coffee and catch up, I noticed this morning, had gone up to 45 in the UK leaderboard, which completely blew my mind because I thought it had fallen out of there by now. I thought it was just going to be a little blip at the end of last week, but it seems to have gone up a bit further. It's a little bit scary actually, having that much exposure, but thank you. I guess that just shows we ought to be careful what we wish for in life, really. But anyway, back to my annuities. I think one new viewer has asked, could I explain a little bit more about my annuities? So for the sake of those that don't know, I will. Now, I have been working on and off most of my adult life. I took a few years out to raise kids, during which time I freelanced and ran my own business. During those times, I didn't contribute to a pension, but otherwise I have been contributing during my employed adult life to 3 different pension funds. The first one was a pension fund for people in higher education, and I contributed to that through 2 different jobs over the years, and that's a defined benefit pension. Now, when I came to take that one, the only choice I had was how much of the tax-free allowance did I want to take as a lump sum, and various tweaks on the sort of annuity I wanted. Did I want it to have a guarantee period, or this, that and the other? Basically, I just took the standard lifetime annuity. For that one, I took the full 25% tax-free lump sum, which I put in an ISA, because I want that money to work for me in the 2 years between when I took the pension and when I get my state pension, because I did lose a little bit of money by taking that pension 9 months early. I also have another defined benefit pension, which was from my job in further education, not higher education. And again, that one's very similar. The only thing I was offered in terms of choice was how much of the 25% tax-free allowance I wanted to take, and then basically, here's your pension. I had quite a lot of discussion with viewers early on in my YouTube history about those, but I didn't really have much choice. The only choice I really had with those was how much of the lump sum I wanted to take, and then here's your pension. I could have withdrawn all of the money and done something else with it, but to be honest with you, the pensions were not that massive, and it was more important to me to have that lump sum relatively quickly, get that put in an ISA relatively quickly, and to have that income coming in. Let me just see if I can remind myself and you how much those are each month. They get taxed at 20% by the annuity providers. The first one, the one from higher education, is about 176 a month, and the one from my further education job is 135 a month. So between them, they bring in about £300 a month, which is not a lot actually. That hardly covers my utility bills, but I'm very grateful for it, and that will continue for as long as I live. Those pensions unfortunately die with me, so my intention is to live as long as possible, obviously, and get as most benefit I possibly can out of them. And so I've basically got to live till I'm 85 to have maxed out on those. Now, my third annuity is a slightly different, and I'm still a little bit confused about how they work, but I think it's called a defined contribution pension. And I had a little bit more choice about how I took that. But again, I wanted to keep it relatively similar to the other two, just because there's only so much information my brain can hold. So again, I took the 25% tax-free from that, and I chose a lifetime annuity that's got, I think, what's called value protection, so that if I die before the capital pot that's remaining is empty, then what is left in that pot will get divided equally between my nominated beneficiaries, which are my 4 children. So that one as well was an enhanced annuity because they needed a medical report from my doctor. I still don't know what my doctor said to indicate that that should be an enhanced annuity rather than a regular one, but it does mean that I'm getting slightly higher payments than I would have done. But those slightly higher payments are offset by the fact that I chose to have a value protected annuity. So those are my 3 annuities, and the third one brings in about £122 a month. So in all, I get about £425 a month from my 3 annuities. Now, at the moment, the state pension is hovering just under £1,000 a month. So I'm thinking, once I get my state pension, if I'm not bringing in any money from side hustles, my base level income will be £1,400 a month. And so that is why I have set the monthly living allowance I allocate to myself every month from my buffer fund at £1,400, because I need to practice living on that. And I can tell you this month it's been quite a challenge. I really have begun to realise how much I need to pull my horns in, and how lucky I was before when I had my office job and my supermarket side hustle, that I could just say, oh, I fancy one of those, I'm just going to have it. Oh, that's a good bargain, I'll have that. I honestly have realised this month I cannot do that anymore. I really can't. I knew that would come, but it has been a little bit of a mental adjustment this month. I've got to persist with that, because that's what I'm going to be living on if it gets to the point where I don't have any side hustles. And I hope that explains a little bit about my annuities. I haven't got any pensions with bells and whistles on. I didn't even know what a SIP was before I started this channel, and people started saying, have you got a SIP? She must have lots of SIP. No, I haven't. No, I'm quite old-fashioned. I come from that generation who was lucky enough to have defined benefit pensions, but my last job was a defined contribution pension, and to tell you the truth, trying to get that and make the decisions about how I wanted to take it absolutely did my head in. I tried to simplify it as much as I could, because after a while you just get decision blindness, and I think that's why a lot of people recommend you do take financial advice, because it does get to the point where you can't see the wood for the trees. And yes, to the viewer who asked, I did have a pension-wise appointment. I had to have a pension-wise appointment before I made my choices about the defined contribution pension. They wouldn't proceed until I'd actually ticked the box and signed that I'd had that appointment, or that I ticked a box and signed that I waived any consequences of not having been informed by that route. So that's my annuities for those of you who are new. I'm sorry if that's too much information, but you know, you did ask, and I hope that helps people play catch up. For the new people who don't know what I mean by my buffer fund, I'm going to link it just up there in the top right hand corner. I did a video describing how I intended to set up a fund and what it was for. I'm doing quite well with that buffer fund at the moment. I want to try and have a £1,400 to £1,500 buffer within that fund so that I've always got a month's living allowance in hand. But anyway, enough about that. What has happened this week? Well, the big thing I mentioned last week was that my spending on my consumables had been rather extravagant, and I was limited to £1 a day for the rest of the month. And listen, it doesn't mean I had nothing else. I have a well-stocked pantry, I have a well-stocked freezer, and I'm sure I can live for a month. But you know what I mean is that if I was thinking about casual spending, I had the equivalent of £1 a day. Well, I've done really incredibly well with that. All I will say is I've got £1.50 left until next Wednesday, but that's absolutely fine. But I did buy 4 antipasto platters that were on the yellow label counter because one of my sons came to visit and my other son was there, and I just thought it would be nice to have those to sit and nibble in front of the TV instead of making a big supper. That took a big chunk out of it, and again I think going forward I need to step back and think twice about that, because we probably could have had snacks in front of the TV a lot cheaper. I just need to really adjust my horizons in some areas. But anyway, I've got £1.50 left until next Wednesday, which is fine by me. I've got everything I need in the house, and I've got a £1.50 loyalty card voucher on my phone. So all in all, I've got £3, which I could spend at the supermarket if I need another bottle of milk or something like that. So we're doing okay, but again, I just need to adjust my focus, adjust my expectations a little bit. It's taking time, but I'm getting there. Right, so other things that have happened this week. Those of you who've been following me for a while will know that I dropped my laptop, and I fell asleep with it on my knee in bed, and it slipped off my knee, it hit the floor, and my screen is now pink and white with green stripes. I did talk to a PC retailer yesterday by phone, and the lovely young guy I spoke to said, yeah, that screen is finished, basically. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So I've been in discussion with a laptop supplier about the sort of specifications I need for what I use my laptop for, including YouTube, and they've given me a sort of ballpark estimate of how much that will cost. And as a result of that, I've been onto my bank's website and I've applied for a 0% large purchase credit card. Now, I wouldn't recommend that people go down this route. I mean, really, I would prefer to have had the opportunity to save for a large purchase and then go out and make the large purchase. But in this case, I don't really think I've got much option, because if I lose my laptop, the standard of the videos that I can put on YouTube is going to go down rapidly. What I've done is I've applied for this 0% large purchase credit card. Amazingly, I've been approved. I had to tell them what my employment status was, and I declared that as part-time because technically I am. I'm not fully retired yet, so I put part-time. I added up my annual income gross, which is what they wanted from the supermarket. I used the baseline for that, my 3 annuities, and a sort of average from what I anticipate I might get from the YouTube channel, and on the basis of that they approved me for £1,000 for 23 months at 0%. So as soon as that card arrives, and I did explain this to the laptop company that I was speaking to, as soon as the card arrives I'll put the order in. It's not just an off-the-shelf laptop, it's going to be personal build, and that would be shipped to me within 2 weeks. So I'm hoping that within the next 3 to 4 weeks I should have a new laptop. And in the meantime, I'm balancing my half-broken laptop very precariously on my dressing table and reading everything in pink and white with green stripes. So that's been quite a major step forward for me this week. I've been holding off because I really didn't want to go down that route. I mean, if I really wanted to, I could take £1,000 out of my ISA and just pay for it. But I think what I want to do is do it this way rather than lose the interest on that £1,000 by taking it out of my ISA. Now, I've worked out that 23 months on £1,000 is about £43 a month. Hopefully the laptop's not going to cost that much. That's not what they quoted me, so we're looking at a bit less than that every month. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat the laptop as a business expense. So when my YouTube income comes in, I'm going to take the payment for the laptop off that first, and then the taxable income will be what's left, because effectively this laptop that I'm ordering will be a business expense. So that's a really big decision for me this week, and that's what's been in the back of my mind when I've said I don't know yet whether I'm going to go down the £1,000 personal allowance tax route with my YouTube, or whether I'm going to go down the expenses route. It all just depends how much this laptop costs and then how much the other expenses I accrue over the year cost in addition. If it all comes in by next April as less than £1,000, I'll go down that route. Otherwise, I'm going to go down the other route. In that respect, again, I've had a pretty big shift in my head this week. I decided I'm going to sell my bike. I've been cycling to work and back at the office since 2016. And this bike that I've got at the moment is relatively new. I had to replace my bike after a rather nasty bicycling accident a couple of years ago in which I broke this hand very badly. And that accident really focused my mind, and it's made me realise that cycling outside of commuter hours when parking is not suspended is really dangerous. I was flung into the road. Very lucky that the traffic was moving slowly. I can remember lying there and seeing a bus out of one side and cars out of the other. It could have ended very badly. So I've decided that cycling is not going to be a safe option for me anymore, and I'm going to sell my bike while it's still in good enough condition to get a decent price. And I've found a bicycle shop nearby that sells bicycles on behalf of owners. It's a bit like a dress agency for bicycles. They'll take your bike in, they'll sell it, and I guess they'll take a bit of commission. But I'm happy with that, and I'm hoping that this afternoon I can push the bike to that bike shop and leave it with them for sale. And I'm not doing that because I need the money. I'm doing that because I don't want it rusting at the bottom of my garden and then being something that has to go to the tip. I might as well sell it, get that money, and put that in my buffer fund or to any extras that I need, and know that that bike is blessing somebody else. So the only other thing that I normally report back on is YouTube, and I did get my YouTube income for August this week, and I'm usually very transparent with my YouTube income, and I want to thank all of you who watch my videos and let the ads run however long it is, and who comment and help bump up my income. So my August income was £477.47, and I'm really grateful for that. And as I've said before, I put aside 30% for tax, because if it turns out that YouTube is considered as a small business, in my case by HMRC, they may ask me for tax on account at the end of my first year of trading, and so I will need really half again of what I have to pay this year to pay them up front for next year. So that's why I put 30% aside, and 30% for the August income is 143.24. So that's gone into my tax account, and that leaves me with £334.32. Now, usually I put £300 from YouTube into my buffer fund for my living allowance for the upcoming month. But I've just decided this month, everything's getting so complicated, I've just bunged the whole lot in my buffer fund. And the buffer fund now stands at £1,779. So once I take out next month's living allowance, that would leave me currently with £379 in there. But I still have 2 annuities left to come in for this month. And the only other thing is the ongoing saga of my replacement glasses, not the ones I'm wearing, but the varifocals that I wear the rest of the time. Now, what I've decided to do with that is, rather than take the money out of my well-being fund or my emergency fund and risk losing the interest on those accounts, because I can only withdraw 3, possibly 4 times in a year from those accounts without losing the high interest. So to save withdrawing money from them, what I've decided to do is I'm actually taking £300 out of my buffer fund, paying off the glasses, and then when I get paid from the supermarket in 2 weeks' time, I will repay the buffer fund, and I will also put in the £800 that I allocate to myself for my monthly living allowance. So I'm hoping that by the time I get paid by the supermarket next time, which I think is about 10th of October, everything will be straight, the glasses will be paid off, and hopefully I can move forward. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. I know that talking about money isn't everybody's cup of tea, but I think it's quite important that I talk about these challenges, because it has been a really big shift for me since March, and now, I think the rubber really is beginning to hit the road, and I'm having to change my focus, and that's all good. And I think it's important that those of you who are following my retirement or semi-retirement journey see that, because it isn't always easy sailing. You don't just quit your job, retire, and everything's hunky-dory. There are challenges to face, and those include financial ones, and they can also imply a change of mindset. And I'm really having to shift my mindset back a bit to the way I used to live a few years ago. But anyway, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on Saturday. And for now, that's goodbye, and thank you for watching, and here's your Kitty and Bella fix. Thank you. Bye-bye. Come on, give us your best stink eye, Bella. Oh, that's a really good stink eye. Oh, pop it. Oh, you're not even going to look at me now. Kitty crunchy nose, aren't you?